You're listening to the Ecosystem Support 360, a joint podcast to feature individuals, teams, governments, and ecosystems around the globe who are supporting innovation. I'm Andy from Forum Founders, tuning in from New York.
I'm Kevin from Shibula Ventures, also tuning in from New York.
Please like and subscribe to this podcast and keep up to date with what's going on. Welcome to Ecosystem Support 360. We're lucky to have the city of Yokohama and its representatives here in the US. Masa Nishikawa and Nikolai Muth as our guests.
The city of Yokohama, known as the second biggest city in Japan after Tokyo, is only a quick train ride away from the Tokyo City Center, as well as Tokyo Haneda International Airport. Not to mention, they are going big on startup support. Masa and Nikolai, can we get a quick intro about yourselves and an overview of Yokohama's support efforts?
So first of all, thank you for having me, Andy and Kevin. And hello everybody. I am Masa Nishikawa, and just call me Masa. And it's been almost 2 years since I started to support the U.S. companies here as a representative based in New York. Before coming to New York, I have been working for the city of Yokohama for over a decade. And my career actually started from the city council bureaus. And I have supported the city council members' deliberations on budgeting, local laws, and any other important issues of Yokohama, which actually made me understood deeply how the city government actually works and how to grasp the big picture of the city policies. And later, since I was so interested in the city's international policies, I made some efforts and luckily got a chance to work for the city's international department. That was actually my head and motivation to decide to work for the city of Yokohama. And there I got involved with some policies and a project regarding how to accelerate Yokohama's innovations through a global partnership with the cities and startups. And in the end, I was posted in New York 2 years ago. I will leave explanation on our support to startups to my colleagues Nikolai, but let me give you some context of why Yokohama is willing to do so first, even with a base in New York. Just as Kevin introduced, Yokohama is the second largest cities, but that is not all. When I joined in the city of Yokohama, I was completely the outsiders, and I had never lived in Yokohama before. But the city accepts me very naturally and kindly. And I was sure that Yokohama did so, since I always feel that Yokohama is full of open-mindedness and a spirit of entrepreneurship. And that is actually how this city grew historically. Just around 160 years ago, Japan opened its doors to the foreign trade for the first time after 200-year-long isolation policy. At the time, Yokohama was just a small village. But since then, Yokohama turned into the global international port cities with 3.7 million diverse people by accepting a lot of peoples and ideas. So the city of Yokohama is truly home to Japan's pioneer, and we are always happy to do something new and innovative in nature. Our speaking here also may be one of the representation of that spirit, because this is my first time to speak in a podcast or this kind of videos, and I'm very excited about that.
Hi, everyone. This is Nikolai Muth with the City of Yokohama. I'm working with Masa here in the City of Yokohama's New York office, and it's a pleasure to be able to talk with all of you, talk with Andy and Kevin here today. So as you can probably tell, I'm not Japanese, but I've been working for the City of Yokohama for around 5 years since the office opened in New York. And my personal background is I've been interested in Japan ever since I was little. My dad would go on business trips, and I was always interested in the things he would bring back culturally, the toys he would bring back to me when I was a kid. And so I knew I wanted to study Japanese, wanted to live over there. And so I've lived in Japan before. I studied abroad over there. And now I get the chance to live in New York, my hometown, and still work for the city of Yokohama. And the reason why that's so cool is the city of Yokohama is such an international city, and it's reaching out internationally as well. So as Masa alluded to, Yokohama was the first city in Japan that opened up historically to international people, and that mindset is still ongoing today and into the future. Yokohama is one of the only cities in Japan that would actually have this position for me as a foreigner to be able to work. Yokohama is one of the only cities that we know of in Japan that has international offices across the world like this that are reaching out and connecting people. So that is what I think is so great about Yokohama, is that we have these international offices so that people around the world, businesses, can have these people to connect to in their native language. There's 4 across the world. We have our office in New York, Europe, China, and Bangkok. And so no matter where you are in the world, there's a Yokohama office that can help connect you to Yokohama's businesses. And Yokohama has so much to offer foreign companies. We're excited to kind of talk about the future and how we can connect Yokohama and what Yokohama is like as a sort of business area in Japan.
Yeah, thank you both, Masa and Nikolai. Wonderful career and wonderful city. Just this sounds like Yokohama is a super cool place to be. Just to kick it off, maybe one of you could help us answer what kind of industries are known in Yokohama? Are there any particular thematic areas Yokohama has strong interest in?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. That is very question and sometimes very hard because, as a city officials required to be neutral, it is sometimes difficult to specify 1 or 2 industries as a key for Yokohama. But today's special, so let me try to do my best. So firstly, I have to say we have everything. Since the city is the second largest city with a rich talent, and we have not only the urban areas, but also a port, and even has a farm field. So we do accommodate various types of industries, including automotives, clean tech, life science, advanced manufacturing, IT, and so on. So let me share a slide here to showcase that. Can everybody see this? Yeah. So this is just one of the examples of the industry clusters in the city. The Minatomirai area on the left is a new business area. You can see that there are major companies that have chosen this area for their headquarters and R&D facilities, including Nissan, Sony, Fujifilm, Hitachi, Murata, etc. And you can also see the Shiseido, cosmetic companies, and the Koei Tecmo gaming companies, and Yamaha musical instrument companies. And even you can see KFC's Japan headquarters is also located in Yokohama. And Samsung is also moving in this area. On the right side is an old downtown area and now becomes a startup hub. And you can see the name of DNA, DENA, which is a big mobile gaming companies and learns professional baseball team, Baystars. So it's related to the sports. So we truly have many types of industries. And worth noting that there are other major international companies that have also chosen Yokohama for their locations in Japan, just not the waterfront district. That includes Apple and Bosch. So you won't see these on the map, but they are also in Yokohama. Yeah, so recently, but city strategically puts more effort to accelerate mobility and clean tech innovation by opening up a new base named Tech Hub Yokohama in the center of waterfront innovation district that I have shown. So why mobility? Just as I mentioned, Yokohama is a home to many big automotive companies like Nissan headquarters, Suzuki's research center, and Bosch Japan's headquarters. And there are many more related manufacturing companies in Yokohama. And we have a partnership with the Drively, which is a German-based mobility accelerator. And now it's that Japanese base is in Tech Hub Yokohama, which enables us to work more closely together to foster mobility innovation. And why clean tech? So our city has been known as one of the leading cities in promoting decarbonization in Japan. Uniquely, we have been extending its effort to the Asia through many initiatives regarding city-to-city collaboration and a partnership with international organizations like World Bank for over decades. In fact, our office sometimes is invited to international conferences or UN meetings to share our green policies with other cities and international organizations. On top of that, Yokohama will host the International Horticultural Exhibition, Green Expo. This World Expo, also known as the World's Fair, is a global international event that will be celebration of nature and sustainability, and also a showcase of nature-based solutions to climate change, providing a huge and global stage for the clean tech and transformative innovation. So if I have to choose one or two key industries in Yokohama, I would say mobility and clean tech. And we are hoping to have more solutions and ideas from the global startups. Tech Hub Yokohama opened just a month ago, but I believe it will be served as a base for these global startups to connect with the Japanese companies and partners under its concept of tech and global. I hope this answers your questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, this is really great. It's super detailed. And by the way, for the listeners, Tech Hub Yokohama is a brand new facility, super squeaky clean. They have a lot of events going on. I had the opportunity to visit them in November as well myself in person. If anybody's in the Yokohama area and if they're having I would recommend you signing up. And by the way, love it that you highlighted KFC's Japan headquarters are in Yokohama. That's great. I mean, I think there are several other American restaurants that I would even recommend entering Japan. I love, several companies that are not in Japan yet. And when I'm in Japan for over a month, I start craving these American foods because I'm born and raised in the US. Hopefully, I see more of these companies in the future in Yokohama area, perhaps.
It's incredible to see that area was like 2 miles long with all these companies and startup, and it really ties in well to what you guys said earlier about 160 years ago, first port in Japan to open up, really connecting that history with what you're doing today. My area of focus in terms of working with companies are early stage or mid stage startups, companies that might be getting their product out globally. They have product market fit into their first market and then thinking about what comes next. So this conversation is really fascinating to me because the more startups I talk to, the more founders I talk to, they're always thinking about where to go next. And especially with the context of mobility startups or clean tech startups, what is Yokohama doing to set up these soft landing pads for startups?
Yeah, absolutely. I can field this question. So the first thing that I would mention is that obviously doing business internationally as either a startup or even a mid-sized company can be a daunting thing to think about and to try to challenge. It's hard to know where to start. And so I would highly recommend, if you're interested in looking at internationally, which I honestly think you should be if you've experienced success, or if you think that your product has a fit in another international market. One of the great things, obviously there are challenges about Japan specifically, but those challenges aren't exclusive to Japan. It's just sort of the challenge of starting to look internationally. That could cover a whole podcast on its own. Maybe we'll have the opportunity to talk about that in the future with you guys. But I think Yokohama is really trying to make that easier for startups, for mid-sized companies that are trying to look internationally, either for the first time or trying to access Asia. One of the great things about Japan as a market is that if you can succeed in Japan, you can succeed anywhere in Asia. That's what I honestly believe. And so that's why I think companies should be looking at Japan. And if you're looking at Japan, you should have Yokohama in mind because of all the things it's doing for international companies. So what I normally say is there are three factors that set Yokohama apart within Japan. The three I's, if you want to call it that. We have the ideal location, Yokohama as an innovation hub, and that Yokohama is so internationally active. So those three I's, the ideal location, innovation hub, and internationally active. So to just explain that a little bit further, ideal location, we haven't really talked about where Yokohama is located yet in Japan, but it's very central. So you have the sort of long island of Japan with, other islands. It's not one island, it's a lot of islands, but right in the center of it is that sort of Tokyo area. And Yokohama is just south of Tokyo. So it's actually, in a sense, part of the Tokyo ecosystem. It's called a part of the Greater Tokyo International Area. But remember, Yokohama on its own is still the second largest city in Japan. So it is a monster on its own. It just happens to be next to and part of one of the strongest ecosystems in the world when it comes to businesses and startups. It's only like half an hour to get from Yokohama into Tokyo and back, but Yokohama offers on average 40% cheaper rent cost for office space. So that can be huge if you're a mid-sized company or a startup looking at Japan. You can actually get into that area, that Tokyo ecosystem at a fraction of the cost. And that's a great way to start. And that's on top of the fact that the US dollar is going very strong in Japan right now compared to the yen. So all of the money that you've raised in the US is going to get you even further in Japan. And the other thing is that Yokohama is an innovation hub. I mean, we've talked about it already. The Techia Hub Yokohama. There's so many new projects that Yokohama is doing to connect startups to larger companies. Masa and I are working on that to connect companies to Japan, and it's just Yokohama as an innovation hub. There are so many things that are happening to connect startups to those large companies that Masa was talking about, to try to create innovation, make business partnerships happen. And that's something that our office helps with as well, which ties into the third point, that Yokohama is internationally active. We have these international offices that can help connect you to the companies in Yokohama. We can try to help you with business registration. Yokohama also has a startup visa Yokohama also has a startup visa project that connects founders to these opportunities to live in Japan, get a visa, which can be a daunting task, but the startup visa makes it easy for an entrepreneur to do that. And so we have all these programs, and we really are trying. Yokohama is trying very hard to support international companies because that's what Yokohama is. It's an international city that's always been very welcoming to new ideas.
Let's say a startup in the space that Yokohama supports. Once they think about taking that next step, what's the call to action?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say reaching out to us is a great way to start. Yokohama, New York office, we can help you connect. Like I mentioned, Yokohama has other international offices. So if there's one closer to you in your home country, we can connect you to them as well. But I think talking to us is a great plan. Doing research on your own is a great plan. But by connecting with our office, we can directly connect you not only to ourselves, but as a local government, we have a lot of partners that also help with things. So there are things that we can't help with, and for those things, we connect you to our partners that can. So when it comes to like the business registration, when it comes to navigating documents in Japanese, we probably have English language versions of those documents for you, and there's other things that we can talk to you about too, like incentives that Yokohama can offer companies, and those are all that's all public information, but it might be either in Japanese or it's going to be hard to find on the internet. There's just so much information out there, right? So I really do think that if you're interested, talk to us. And we can also connect you to, there's a national level organization that also helps companies. Again, one of our partners, JETRO, JETRO, we can help connect you to them. We work very closely with them to support companies that are looking at Japan.
Yeah. And one of the things that we'll do with this podcast is on the show notes, we'll have the links to the office, especially here in New York, and also a survey. Kevin, do you want to talk about the survey and what we want to do to have a bat signal out to the founders?
In terms of the survey, we would love for all the listeners to respond to the survey. That way we could try to make improvements to future shows, as well as we can try to gauge what the listeners' interests are into entering the Japanese market, especially through Yokohama, for example. And from there, that way we could try to provide some kind of support for any listeners out there who is actually thinking about entering the Japanese market.
Thank you again, Nikolai and Masa, for joining the show. Our intention is to cover more of Yokohama and how we can take each part of what we said and expand it further. So people who are listening, people who are thinking about what comes next for their companies, how they can grow, how they can participate in international trade, can make the best decision and hopefully choose Yokohama as well in the process. Are there any future events that you're hosting that you would like to share with the community?
Yes, absolutely. With the great help of Kevin-san, we are actually having the webinars for Yokohama's companies which are interested in connecting with the global startups. That event itself is mainly for the Japanese audiences, but we are planning to do the serial webinars to introduce these Japanese companies or opportunities that we can offer to the global startups. And next year, January 22nd, the event called the Deep Tech Forum will be held in New York in a partnership with the Japanese venture capital and national government. And that event aims at connecting the Japanese corporation with the global startups in the clean tech and robotics industries. And our office is actually supporting this event. So Nikolai and I will be there. The detail of the event has not been announced yet, but if you are interested in it, please just feel free to reach out to us, and we are happy to meet you there. Also, we are planning many more events and soon launching an important initiative to support global startups, which are seeking for opportunity to collaborate with the Japanese corporations. I believe a lot of American startups plan to expand their business globally from the beginning, and Japan's market is the fourth biggest in the world. So we are more than happy to get connected with you if you're also one of these pioneers. We'd love to share more info with you.
Fantastic. And with that, thank you for listening to the show, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening in. For those who want to get more info or have any questions, please contact any of us from the info on the screen. Last but not least, we would appreciate it if you could answer a quick survey to make improvements as well as to gauge your interest in the Japanese market after today's show. And as an incentive to those who complete it by the end of Friday, December 20th, 2024, US Pacific time, pretty specific there, we will share an extended version of the slide deck that Masa showed earlier.